Joining us now, Bernard Kerik, CEO of the Kerik Group and former police commissioner in New York City. Bernie, we have you there from Washington, D.C. this morning. I don't know when you got into the nation's capital, but there's something we call a New York state of mind, taking things in stride. What's the mood in the Big Apple following this attack on the 4 officers and news of a doc contracting Ebola?
Well, obviously they're two different things, but I want to talk a little bit quickly, JD, about this attack on the 4 officers. This was an unprovoked attack. This was a suspect that was shot and killed ultimately by the cops, who, according to all reports, was a recent Muslim convert. Then you have to look at what happened in Canada the day before, or yesterday, day before yesterday. You have to look at what's happened with these 3 young girls that were going to Syria, another 19-year-old female that was on the way to Syria or trying to get to Syria. There has been a call by ISIS and by the radical extremist groups for people to attack police, for people to attack government officials. I was just on Newsmax last week. We talked about this. And now it's happening. People are going out there, unprovoked attacks, deadly attacks, and this is something that our local and state and federal law enforcement officers in this country have to realize is going to continue, and we have to be prepared for it.
So, Bernie, you served capably as the New York City Police Commissioner. If you were still in that post today, what would be your checklist for those following your command?
Well, first of all, I think the key to the success of combating this element is going to be intelligence. The more we know, the more we get, the more information we get from the public. We've evolved into a society now where we don't have a choice but to report suspicious activity. In Canada, the actual shooter of the soldier up there, the murderer of the soldier, the Canadian intelligence was aware of him. They had put him on the no-fly list. They had already seized his passport. Obviously, they were looking at this guy. I think we have to stay on top of the intelligence community to make sure that they are looking at every single person where these reports come in, because somebody's going to see something, they're going to hear something, they're going to see particular behavior that they have to, that they're going to feel something's wrong. They need to report it, and they need to get it to the authorities. There's an enormous social media campaign by ISIS and ISIL and all these radical groups calling for attacks on government officials and law enforcement. We've got to be prepared.
And when you talk about that preparation, Bernie, I think a lot of people think about these lone rat attacks to occur in major metropolitan areas.
No, honestly, JD, I think it's all across the country. We don't know who's monitoring these social media campaigns. We don't know if they're in New York or they're in some suburban town in the middle of Iowa. We have no idea. The problem is some lunatic or some mentally deranged person or some person that wants to martyr themselves, they're going to follow this direction to go out and attack a government official or somebody in law enforcement or our military. That's been another big one that they've been talking about. Go after the military people. They're going to do it. Somebody's going to do it. So we don't know where it's coming from, and that's why it's extremely important. People, one, report it. 2, the intelligence people stay on top of it and track down the leads.
30 seconds. In terms of active intelligence with social media, how do we monitor social media but preserve constitutional rights?
Well, the good thing is social media is public. It's a public forum, and the intelligence community for them to identify and find in those accounts that will give them the ability to go into court, obtain a search warrant, go into those databases and suck out where these people are, who they are, what they're doing. That's going to be extremely important.
It certainly is. We'll have to leave it right there. Bernie Kerik, as always, we appreciate your insight and analysis. Thank you so much for your time, and America's Forum continues after this.